Hello everyone, my name is Ronak and you're watching VectoArt. So in today's video we'll learn how to create this transparent looking dashboard using handy controls and also charts called live charts. So without any further ado, let's get started. And before we start, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel because it means a lot and it encourages me to create more such videos. So yeah, so let's start by first creating a new project in Blend for Visual Studio 2022. So let's click on create a new project. Let's select WPF app using .NET framework. Click on next. Let's fill out the project properties. And click on next. Let's select the framework and create. So our project is created. First things first, let's install the packages. So let's go to manage NuGet package manager, and here let's click on the browse tab and search for handy controls. Select the second link. So this one will have a readme file which will help us in integrating or implementing this package to our application. So accept the terms and conditions, and once it is done it will open a readme file. So it is way easier than the first one. So let's copy the namespace and go to the main window.xaml file, and on top let's add the namespace. Once that is done, let's go back and copy the whole thing up to resources and go to the solution explorer and open the app.xaml file and paste it here. Once that is done, save this and go back to the NuGet tab and search for live charts. So select the one that is for WPF, so live charts WPF, and then click on install. So the installation or the implementation documentation is in the link that I have provided in the description, so you can check that out. So I'll be going to that document. Before that, let me build this application once to rule out any errors. Okay. Yeah, so it built successfully. So I'll go to that documentation here, and if I go to the get started, there is an install link, and here you will see how to install this. So let's copy this namespace and paste it on our main window.xaml file. Once that is done, let's also copy the using statements or namespaces here in the code behind file. Now that's done. So let's start by running this application and see it in action once before we add the cosmetic and the controls on that. So this is our window, and also to get rid of the toolbar on top of the window that you saw, the debug toolbar, let's run the application once, and on the left hand side you see a live visual tree. So toggle that and that toolbar will be gone. Now let's change the width and height of this window. So let's pin the object bar toolbar and select the window and go to properties, and in the properties let's scroll down and change the width and height first. Once that's done, let's click on the allow transparency checkbox and scroll down and change the Windows startup position to center screen. That's done. Now let's change the background color of this window to a dark shade of gray. Okay. Let's change it to black. Black looks, I think we'll be making the changes later on once we add all the elements. So let's speed up this process. So let's add this card tool from handy controls. So that is the one of the tool that is from the toolkit handy controls. So let me add this. I'll also show you the documentation for this, and the link is also there in the description. So let me change the background color for this card. Before that, let me change the window color, and now I will change the color of the card. Okay, so let me get rid of the text on top of that card and also remove the borders. Now let's make copies of this card that we created. Okay, one more copy. Yes, and a final copy. Okay, so now let's start with a text block. Drag and drop the text block on the window, on the grid. Change the properties, foreground to white, text bold, and change the font size. Okay, so that is done. So next we will add a stack panel below it so that we can stack all the buttons that we add and make it appear like a navigation bar. So let's add a stack panel. Let's add a button inside that stack panel. Make sure the orientation is vertical. Change the button background foreground color to white, and now let's right click on that button to edit its template. So edit a template and edit a copy. After you do that, remove the content presenter inside the button and add a stack panel inside that border. Change the width and height of the stack panel. Okay, now Inside that stack panel, let's add an image. So here I am creating a custom button template. Okay, so let's align it. And now we will add a text block next to that image. Before that, let's fill the image with a image source. Okay, and these icons that I'm using in this application, I have downloaded them from icons8.com. The link is also there in the description. So I've added a text block inside the stack panel, and here in for this stack panel the orientation is horizontal. That is why it is stacking the elements horizontally. Now let's increase the size of the text block. Let's add some margin and change the font properties or the text properties. Let's decrease the size of the icon and change the text. Now let's decrease the size of the text block and increase the top margin so that it aligns at the center. So now our template is created. So let's make a copy of that button and paste it multiple times within the stack panel. And now for individual button, to change the icon we'll have to edit its template. So before that, let's add the margins between the buttons that we have added. Make sure you do not edit whenever you are editing the template. Make sure you do not edit the current, because editing the current means that it will edit the template for all the buttons that we are copied now. So always make sure you edit a copy so that we have a different style for each button that we have created. So here I have edited a copy and I am selecting the changing the image and the text. You can also create a user control, and there you can do these changes, and then using the properties panel for that user control you can change the values directly. So let's follow the same procedure for all the buttons that we have added. Also, the source code for this application is in the GitHub, and the link to it is in the description. So I have made one more copy of that button and I have moved it to the bottom. And let's edit its template by editing it, a template, and edit a copy. And now I'll change the size of the icon or the image box that we have inside the stack panel. Change the source and also change the text. Okay, so next we will move the panel below. It is too close to the application name, so let's move it down and also move the last button inside. So that is done. So let's next move on to the buttons, close, minimize and maximize buttons. So let's add a button, change the width and height, remove the borders, remove the background, edit its template, and let's follow the same procedure. Let's remove the content presenter and inside the border let's add an image. Let's remove that grid and add an image directly inside the border. And now we'll fill this image with a icon. So that is done. So let's go back to the window and place this button. Now let's make a copy of this button twice and fill it with a different image by going to its template, by editing a copy and changing the image. Okay, so this is the documentation that I was talking about. So here if you go to the extended controls, we have this search bar control. So this has a good description and documentation for this controls that they are providing. So if you scroll down, you see the examples. So let's take one of the search bar from here, the one with title and placeholder text. So let's copy that and paste it here on our XAML file, and let's resize the added search bar. Let's place it on the top. Let's go to properties and change the background color for this search bar. So let's go to properties and remove the background color and also change the border brush to something darker. So that is done. So let's move to the first card or first panel that we have and add a text block on that. So this is the title for that card. So let's go to properties and change the foreground to white. Let's copy that button from the top. Again, let's we'll have to right click and edit its template, edit a copy and change the icon. Let's resize this, make it small. Okay. Okay, so let's add a text block and change its properties. Add the text, add a subtext, change the text. Now let's copy the button on top, or let's paste an image here, not the button. Let's create an image box and change the width and height for that image. Let's select the image source and make copies of that image that we just created. Change the image source for all the images that we have added. And now let's draw a line or a stroke and also add a vertical stroke. Let's copy the image text block on top, change its width and height and also the font size. Change the text, decrease the size of the text block and make a copy of it again and place it below. Add the text, change the font color and copy and paste it on the right hand side. Change the text and align all the text to center. Okay, so we are done with the first card. So let's copy some of the elements from the first card and place it on the second. Okay, done. Okay, so now let's start changing the text for each element that we have added. Let's quickly change the subtext and let's go to the documentation again, and here we have a circle progress bar. So let's copy the code for that and paste it in the XAML file and place the progress bar on the card. Add the values, minimum value, maximum value and the current value for that. Let's copy that whole card and paste it on the right hand side. Change the elements, change the text, decrease the size of the progress bar, and make 2 copies of it. Also change the text to remove the percentage sign. So after you make copies, align it, change the value for each of the progress bar and the text for that. Change the color for the progress bar. Change the values and the text. So our third card is ready. So let's move on to the fourth card, which will be the chart control. So if you go back to the documentation, click on the sections, and here we have the XAML code and also the code behind part. So let's copy the chart and paste it on the XAML file. So go back to the XAML and paste it here on the bottom. Once that is done, resize the chart and confine it within the card. So this chart can be populated from the code behind. So let's go back to the documentation and copy the code. So let's copy this series first and the data context and paste it within the main window constructor. We have some errors. To resolve them, let's copy these initializers, and I think some library is missing, so let's go back and copy the namespaces. Okay, and that solves it. So I think it's ready. So let's run the application once and see it in action. Before we make the windows and the cards transparent. So there is a small error. I have forgot to add a semicolon. So let's run this now. Okay, so I want to make this whole window transparent. So let's stop this application now. Select the main window and go to background and change the transparency to 70%. Similarly, select all the cards and change the background transparency to 70. Do the same for all the cards and our application will be transparent. So the amount of transparency that you want depends on you, so you can set that accordingly. So hope you all liked watching this video. If you do, please do subscribe to my channel. It means a lot. Thank you.